Welcome to the show. How exciting. It's exciting for me because I know you, but I actually don't know that much about one of your businesses. And I know about one, but not about the other. So I get to learn quite a lot of stuff today, which is always exciting. So for the benefit of everybody else, why don't you talk about perhaps your business that you've been in for some time, and then the business that you're also looking at, and a little bit about how you actually ended up running your own businesses as well. Why don't you just take us through that story?
So I've had my business, which is Emma Blomfield, an interior design and styling business. I've had that for 10 years. I had my anniversary in February this year.
10 years?
Yeah.
Did you have a party?
I did, yeah. Well, I wanted to have a big party, but COVID. I had a small little party at home. So. And I went out to dinner with my family.
Oh, well, mate, for 20 years. Here it comes.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just wait. I bought myself a watch, so that's fine.
There you go.
I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but the other business is decorlibrary.com. So that was born out of 10 years of frustrations as an interior designer, trying to manage client projects over a whole bunch of different software systems, trying to work out one that worked, using stuff from the US, the UK, none of them quite working for the Australian market. And now tackling that myself in the tech world. Not sure why I've bitten off all of that, but
well,
hey, if it can make my life easy, it can make someone else's life easy too. So
we're gonna unpack and go through that today. We'll find out exactly why. So that's a tech business, right?
Yeah, so very different. So I did a business degree, so I actually never studied interior design.
Yep. Do clients know that, or is this the first time they're finding this out?
This is probably something that knows. It's well known that I haven't studied, but I then landed a job straight after uni. So I majored in marketing, and I liked the visual merchandising side of marketing. So I was working for Origin Group at the time, doing a lot of their window displays for the handbags, and loved that.
Cool.
Started looking for jobs. Seek was throwing up interior design jobs with visual merchandising jobs. Thought, hey, I could give that a crack.
Why not?
And you're going to laugh at this. When I was a kid, like a teenager, I was obsessed with that game, The Sims. I don't know if you've ever played that game.
I do know the game. Yes, I do know the game.
But you know what I would do? I didn't play the game in terms of making sure that the family all lived together happily ever after and
no interest
all of that. No interest in actually like looking after the family. They'd all die in the swimming pool.
Moving the stuff around.
I would download floor plans from Point Piper homes, Vaucluse homes, Wahroonga homes, and I would build those floor plans within The Sims. I knew all the cheat codes to get all of the money to make it happen.
Yep.
And did that for probably like 3 years after school.
3 years?
After school, every day, would be obsessed with that game. So then when I started my business, I started offering e-decorating, which my mum said to me a few years later, she goes, you used to sit there and do that after school, and I used to tell you to get off the computer and stop doing it. And I was like, yeah, but look where it's got me.
Wow. And what year did you start that? So that would have been 2011?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I haven't followed the trends. So how was e-decorating new then? Was anyone else really doing it, or were you very much pioneering it?
For this country, I was one of the first ones to offer it. It was something that was being offered by a lot of US bloggers that I was following. This was well before social media was a thing. So it was blogs that I was following, just online forums and seeing what was being offered for the US market. Cool. And I thought, hey, I was working as a property stylist at the time, getting paid like $38,000 a year, thinking I need to earn some more cash. Maybe if I just start a website and put some online services that I can do after work, not necessarily have to leave the house for. And then when COVID hit, I'd already had that established from 10 years ago. And I had all these other interior designers coming to me saying, oh, how did you start the e-decorating service that you offer? And I was like, oh, did that.
Now that game Sims.
That a decade ago. Yeah, exactly. Get onto The Sims and work it out.
Yeah, work your way up. Takes time.
Takes 10 years.
Wow, I didn't know that. I knew obviously what you did, but I didn't know that. I certainly didn't know about The Sims, but I didn't know that you were you started out with the e-decorating stuff.
Yeah.
And how did you get that out there? How did you, because you said it's before social media, right? So how did you promote that business back then?
Well, it was blogs again.
Oh,
so it came back to blogs. So I just approached a bunch of design bloggers that I knew in this country that didn't offer design services with their blog. They were just writing about interior design and things that they liked in terms of lifestyle. And they said, yeah, sure, I'll write a blog post about your business, put the hyperlink to my site up.
And away you went.
And that was kind of it. And then obviously word of mouth from there. But in the initial stages, it was purely from blogging.
Cool. And how long did you do the two things? How long were you doing Oroton by day and Emma Blomfield by night before you took that sort of leap?
A long time. So I went into other part-time jobs after that. Did property styling, worked for an interior designer doing high-end residential interior design jobs.
Yep.
And then Rocket Internet approached me. They found my LinkedIn profile.
Rocket Internet approached you? I know Rocket Internet well.
Yeah. That was right when the Iconic was starting,
Yep.
HelloFresh, Zanui, and there was about 6 of us. Some of them didn't make it.
We recruited for all of those.
Oh, really?
Yes. I used to come into that warehouse in Surrey Hills
in Mary
with all
Street.
it was just chaos,
And there
right?
was duct tape cables.
There were
across the
mannequins
floors.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I used to come in there nearly every week. I was recruiting for
I would've
Iconic
been in there.
and Zanui. I was recruiting for those
Yeah.
two brands.
I would have been in there at one of those
bizarre.
trestle tables.
That was the most chaotic place I've ever been in my life.
I know, but you know what? I absolutely loved it. There was
can
no
imagine.
structure at all.
No.
And there was just like absolute chaos day to day. No one knew what they were doing. And everyone was really young. There was
Yep.
no one kind of over 30.
No, and we used to set up interviews and we'd say, what time do you want them to come in? They say, it doesn't matter, just tell them to come anytime they want. And I'm like, well, it doesn't work like that. It was just, they were very difficult to work with. But I remember that the energy in that place was insane.
It was. And it was hard not to get caught up in that. And I
Yeah.
liked that part of it. But it was quite funny because new people would start and we'd be like, how long do you reckon she's got? And there was a 3-week rule. If they got past 3 weeks, they'd stay.
Wow.
But a lot of people couldn't hack it.
I can imagine. Yeah, it was just total chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was fun. And so I was working as a buyer for one of the online stores that
Right.
they'd created, which was modelled on One Kings Lane, which is a US flash sale homeware site.
Right.
Then we got bought out probably about 6 months later by Aussie Commerce, which is now Lux Group.
Yep.
They've got Luxury Escapes, and we were part of Living Social, Brands Exclusive,
Okay, yep.
those types of
Yep.
sites. So I worked 3 days a week for them,
Yep.
and then had 2 days for my business.
Yep.
And I did that for 5 years before I was made redundant. Took my money and ran off into the sunset doing my stuff full time.
So now I know you've written a couple of books as well. When did they come in? Were you doing them when you got made redundant? Did you just
No.
try and throw that in at the same time as everything else?
Yeah, I did it all at the same time.
You like to overcommit.
Yeah, I always say yes and work it out later. That's my thing. The first book came out in 2017.
Yep.
And that was based on workshops that I was teaching in remote and regional areas of Australia.
Yes.
And I had the 5 elements of decorating that I was teaching in these workshops.
Yep.
A publisher heard what I was doing, approached me and said, do you think you could turn it into a book? I said, yeah, I suppose so. But I also said, I'm 26, I'm 27. I think I probably should write a book in my late 30s or early 40s,
Yep.
not before I'm 30. And they were like, age has nothing to do with it, just go and write it.
Yep.
And I did. And then that one did so well, they asked me to write a second one. And that one came out 2 years ago.
I think you've given me a copy of that. I have a copy
Yes.
of that.
Yes. So Home is the first one and Keeping House is the second one.
Yeah, that's right. Cool.
Yeah.
And then when did the new idea to, I guess maybe you finished the book, you thought, how else can I overcommit? And maybe we should look at a tech business. When did the new idea of Decor Library come? When?
Ties me back into the Sims of the tech stuff. Just really committing to that. So that's something I've actually spoken to my co-founder about for years.
Right.
He kind of said to me, you know you need to build that, right? When I told him. And I was like, yeah, but you know I'm never going to do it.
Good chat.
Because I said to him, this is my problem as an interior designer, managing multiple projects across multiple different sites, then having multiple team members working on those projects.
Yep.
What I need to do is create a platform where it all happens in one place and I can source products from one place.
Okay.
So as an interior designer, we have access to wholesale furniture suppliers, which you need to remember their website, you need to then have a login, and then
Okay, yep.
you need to search through their catalogue. Every site's different.
How many
Some
are
of-
there? Hundreds?
Yeah, thousands.
Yeah.
And some of them are really archaic in the way that they run their sites. They're really basic HTML sites, and you've got to search through paper catalogues. And so I said, if there was a directory where I could search everything, that would make my life
lot
so much easier.
Yep.
And he said, well, you know there's tech capabilities to do all of that and it's not difficult.
Yep.
And I said, well, I've got no idea because I have no tech
Yep.
understanding.
But now it's difficult.
So I always thought that was impossible or would cost so much money to make happen that I was never going to be able to do it.
Yep.
And for 3 years, he kept asking me, like every few months, he'd call me and say, how's that business idea of yours going? And I'd be like, yeah, no, not going to do it.
So what does he do outside of
So
it?
his background is software development.
Right.
So he's built other websites in the past himself. He also has his own business that he's running at the moment that's a similar kind of platform.
Right.
And so he was like, no, you need to give this a crack. He said, I think your idea has legs. When are we going to do it?
Right.
And then in January last year, he finally wore me down, and I said, if I send you a Google spreadsheet that I've written bullet points in for the last 4 years, do you promise not to laugh at my ideas? And he said, yeah, send it to me. I sent it to him, and he said he was in Singapore at the time, living there. And he said, I'm coming back to Sydney next week. Meet me in my hotel and we'll talk about how to make this happen.
Yep.
And we did. And now we're here.
Wow. How exciting.
I know.
And so where is that business at now?
So we've got the site built.
Yep.
So we worked through all of that with the developers and that was what was the difficult part, was trying to understand, do I work the same way that other interior designers work? Or
Probably not, surely.
Well, every designer is different, slightly different. There's different things that they do. And obviously a designer is very creative in what they do. So their tech abilities aren't the most amazing in terms of, someone in IT would be far better at that. So for me, trying to wrap my head around what is the most common way for someone to use this platform that we can commercialise and sell for other designers, not just make it work for me. And that's been the hardest thing to try and gauge is, don't just build this for yourself, Emma. Build this for everyone else.
Well, surely you could build it for yourself and then look at the usability, I guess. Is that how you've...
We are trying, we're doing a bit of that. So we've got the site built, the basic...
Your way.
Yes, my way. The beta testers have tested it. We've had heaps of feedback about it. And there's also the decorating side of it as well as the design side. So decorating is the soft furnishings, furniture, curtains, rugs, those sorts of things. And then design is the hard surfaces. So if you're going in and doing a kitchen or a bathroom and choosing tiles, tapware, baths, all those sorts of things, so trying to make it work for two is quite difficult because they're two different target markets with it as well. But we're tackling that with downloadable spreadsheets, downloadable PDFs. So you source everything in the platform and then you can export it and then share it with the client. Or there's a client dashboard so you can share it direct with your client, give them a password, and everything happens in the platform, not emailing, calling, texting.
Right. So the idea is almost maybe the design. I mean, is the sort of, I guess it ties in with your early years of Sims, right?
Yeah.
Is it that you sit down there as a designer with your client in their house and you go through either whatever rooms they're doing and you literally have it on the screen and they can see it visually, they can change the surfaces, the textures, the colours, and they can order it and do it all and then just leave and it's all just there, kept, ready and happening.
Well, that's a very nice, easy way to put it. There's a little bit more to it. But basically,
I'm not a designer. But is that's the dream, I guess? Is it that it works? But tell me a bit more about it then.
Well, because there's a lot of admin involved. People think that I spend my days out there, styling coffee tables and fluffing cushions.
Going on podcasts.
My brother jokes about that. He said to me yesterday, he's a builder and he's meeting me on site today for a client's house. Yep. And I said, do you really need me to be there? And he said, yeah, why? Do you want to start your Aperol hour earlier? I was like, I have a real job.
He'll be in the pub at 3 for sure.
I know. Well, it's raining too, so he definitely
he's already
will.
there. It was only 12 o'clock, yeah.
So there's so much admin involved in being a designer. When you talk about furnishing a house from scratch or even designing a house from scratch.
You do a lot of from scratch stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be massive.
So, you could be with the client for 2.5 years to get that project done.
God.
So think about the very first conversation you have with them through to actually documenting and designing that entire house and having it built by the end.
And how many change of minds they have, right?
Oh, there can be like hundreds.
Yeah, particularly if you're going point pipe of vocals.
Exactly. And then, the bigger the budget, the more involvement they want to have. Yep. And of course, it's the biggest amount of money that people are going to spend. So they may have never done it before. And
it's supposed to be the dream, right? When you're building a house, it's the dream. So it has to be perfect.
Exactly.
No pressure.
No, I know.
So that's going to be game changing. And then the idea is that in terms of monetizing that, you're going to sell license fees. So people are going to pay, like designers are going to pay a subscription to be able to use the platform and so forth. And they'll have different tiers and all that kind of stuff.
There's only one tier at the moment. So we've got a marketplace where all of the suppliers' catalogues will be in one central spot. So you won't have to remember your logins. We only see products at trade fairs twice a year. And then if we go to their showrooms, but a lot of showrooms are in different states and they don't have them in multiple places. So the majority of a designer's sourcing is done online. and trying to remember where you've seen something at a trade fair back in March and it's now October. You never remember everything.
They must love it. The suppliers must
exactly
just love this.
Well, it's great marketing for them because they're getting all the designers' eyeballs in one spot. It's like the trade fairs have come online.
Yeah. And are you charging them to be on there, or?
There's a percentage when a product is sold. There's a percentage of the sale.
Yeah, that's a better way of doing it. That's a much better way of doing it.
Yeah. And then the designers pay a monthly subscription fee to use the platform.
It's cool. So it's about time to start another book. How I built my tech business.
I actually think I probably would write a business book next rather than another decorating book.
Interesting. Maybe get this off the ground.
Yeah, I know. I need a little bit more experience first.
All right. So that's an awful lot going on, which is awesome. So tell me, I guess, because whenever people talk about their stories, they always talk about how it's all going. Tell me what's been maybe the hardest part for you, and that can be building your first business, it could be writing the book, it could be building the new business, or it could be trying to manage it all. What's been the biggest challenge, or is there something the biggest mistake that you made that maybe made you change the way you approached your business?
Yeah, there's been a few things. I mean, I guess you would call them learnings more so than mistakes, because each time I've done something to change it so it doesn't happen again.
Yep. That's what mistakes are. They're learning opportunities. That's
exactly
right.
And I've made plenty of them.
Yep.
And I don't try and hide that fact either.
And don't stop either. We have to keep making them, right?
Well, yeah, you do. And I think the minute you stop learning, you may as well stop running a business, because what's the point?
Yeah.
So, and I'm big on educating myself in different areas as well. I read a lot of books. I go to a lot of seminars, all those.
Talk about that later.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is COVID and the impacts that COVID's had on my business. It was, and this is probably not what most people found, but it was absolutely mega growth for me.
Yep.
So I've doubled my revenue on the previous year.
That's awesome. You'd be surprised how many people who come on this show particularly have benefit. I know it's bad to benefit, but because it's obviously a bad side of it.
I felt bad about it.
But I don't think you should do. I think it's good. I mean, I think COVID obviously has had really horrific impacts on the world, but it's also had an enormous amount of positives on the world. On businesses, on the way we live, on people's mental, all sorts of things. So
well, that's what I've noticed.
Don't be afraid to talk about how it's benefited you. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm not complaining about it, really. It's been difficult to manage having to go from, I mean, I lost every project I was working on at the start of COVID. Yeah. So I actually thought COVID was going to ruin me and that I'd need to go and work in a cafe, and that was it. I'd have to just be like,
cafes are shut.
I'm done. Yeah, true. I wasn't even going to be able to do that. Need to go back and study nursing.
That's
the only guaranteed job.
Yeah, that's true.
But and that was scary, because I thought, oh my God, obviously no one saw that coming. At the start of the year. No one would have been like, oh, you're going to lose everything in 3 months' time. So trying to navigate going from losing absolutely everything to all of a sudden being the busiest I've ever been in my entire career and not having enough resources to make it happen.
Yep.
So trying to scramble and find the right people to help me on the right jobs. A lot of what I do is project-based, so I need to have freelancers or contractors that I can pick up and drop off depending on what I'm doing.
Yep.
And then starting a tech business all at the same time.
That's been that sounds like a challenging year.
It was.
Was it easy to find those people during that period? Because I guess if you were going off, was your industry, or was it more because of your background that it almost you benefit more?
I was lucky in the fact that I had my website, in terms of my own decorating website, that was very well set up already. The majority of my referrals come from Google, so it was just the increase in inquiries coming through. Not so much that I had to tweak and fix any of the back end of what I was doing. It was more scaling on the front end of who's out there face to face with the clients, who's searching for materials for projects, who's doing the client communication and all the follow-up, and then who's doing the ordering and processing of the product orders once they actually make a decision on something. So it was just trying to streamline that process to cope at a larger scale. That was the hardest part for me to work through.
Yep.
And then also working with a development team over in Sri Lanka who were trying to build a website while I was absolutely snowed under with clients calling.
It's interesting when you describe, who did this, who did this, who did this, who did this. It kind of sort of makes me realise how much goes into interior design. And I'm probably guilty of your brother's opinion to a degree. Maybe not quite as much Aperol hour, but not realising how much there is just in terms of keeping up with the products as well as the ordering and managing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's an enormous amount. It's
And also the pressure on you in terms of choosing the quality of product as well and meeting the client's budget, because it's a lot of money and outlay from them, and they don't know me from a bar of soap. They've read my website, they may have read my books and think, oh, she sounds like the person for the job, but you don't know that until you've engaged that person to start working on it. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And I guess, do you think that boomed because everyone was at home and they had extra money because they weren't spending it, right? So everyone, we did home renovations during COVID.
I don't know anyone that hasn't.
Yeah, we did a kitchen and I can't even remember. I don't want to talk about it because I hate renovating. But I like it, but I hate it. You know, it's one of those things.
I like the end result.
I love the end result. I quite like the early result. I don't like the actual middle bit.
Yeah,
that's no fun at all.
We don't like that bit either.
Okay, cool. So that brings me to something a little bit more about you, because you've been on this journey, right? Like most entrepreneurs have. Has there ever been and this is a really interesting question because the answers are so different from everybody. A belief that you've had, and a belief is something that is created through your experiences, through your upbringing, through your parents, all that kind of stuff, that has changed. And if there is, what was it that made it change? Because it's a big thing for someone's belief to change in something.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, I never studied interior design.
Yes.
I did a business degree, majored in marketing, and I also studied event management because I do event styling as well.
Right.
So for me, to have written two books before I was 30 about a topic that I've never studied.
It's interesting when you put it that way, yeah?
Yeah. I constantly keep waiting for someone to come and tap me on the shoulder and say, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Go back and do something else relating to marketing or relating to business because you've got no right to have done what you've done.
Do you have that feeling?
All the time.
I mean, that's obviously a massive imposter syndrome thing, which most people get. I know I get it a lot. I don't know anyone who's come on the show who doesn't get it, but I think that's a very specific example you've given there. Very specific. And I can understand it. So how do you deal with that?
Well...
And has it ever come close? Like, if you had a review of it, or you've had nothing?
No one's ever said anything, ever.
Well, there might be a reason for that. We might want to have a think about that. But carry on. Yeah. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, and it's only in my head. So it's not something that someone's come up and said to me. But I think what I've had to realise is I haven't done 10 years in business for no reason.
No.
And I'm not starting another business relating to the industry that I work in for no reason. I don't have 2 books for no reason. And I don't have the community of designers that I have that I mentor and coach as well for no reason. So just get over yourself.
Look, you also have the sole founder thing. Obviously, now you've got a co-founder, but most of what you've done is you've done on your own. And it's very different to having a co-founder. I mean, I've just started a business as a sole founder. I've always had co-founders. It's very different, and it's a lot more loud, and your head messes with you a lot more.
So much louder.
When there's no idiot co-founder you can blame things on, right? So that's what they're there for. That was my believing. No, I do mean that, but there's no one to talk to. There's no one that, even partners, friends, family, all those people, they don't quite understand it because they can't, and like anything in life, unless you're actually doing it. So I think that probably doesn't help. But get over yourself, Emma. I agree.
Thanks.
All right. Now, you said earlier that you read a lot, and I'm assuming you listen to podcasts, and particularly this one. What have you? Is there any book that you've read that had an impact on you? And it doesn't have to be like a profound impact that changed your life. It could just be something that made you laugh out loud all the way through, or any podcast that you would like to recommend to people, because people love. There's so much stuff out there.
Yeah,
people always want recommendations.
I'm kind of late to the podcast thing.
Is this your first time knowing what they are today?
I know what they are. No, but I think I always listen to music when I'm in the car.
Okay.
But I've got so many friends that are like, oh no, I listen to podcasts, and they listen to them when they're working. I always have music on because I find that when I'm working, I can't concentrate to listen to a podcast because I'm so focused.
I couldn't. No, I like music when I'm working.
Yeah.
I listen to music in the morning because I need to get myself going.
Yeah.
There's a podcast on the way home. That's how I tend to do it.
Well, maybe I need to adopt that.
Give that a try. See how that goes.
Yeah, I'll see. But I read more than I would listen to podcasts. And the books that I've actually really enjoyed, I don't know if you could even call them business books. They've helped me in business, but I don't know you'd specifically find them in the business section of books. Stores, is the Malcolm Gladwell books. So
I
The
love
Tipping
those.
Point and Blink. His way of writing is so different to anyone else that I've ever read before, but it makes so much sense.
Blink is one of my favourite books. It's very relevant to what I do, I think, in terms of being able to make decisions around people in that split second. But he does have we've talked about this before, I'm massively dyslexic. So I find some of those business books, they get muddled in my head. I find his writing very easy to read.
Interesting.
I cruise through it. I get it. I understand it. I don't feel like I have to go back and look over it. So maybe that's why.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I like his 10,000 hours rule.
Yep.
Which, if you think about it, my Sims days.
Yes, you
were my
clocked up a
10,000
fair
hours.
few.
Yeah, yeah. So by the time I was ready to start a business, I'd already done it all.
It was your brain. And,
Yeah.
You know, it's like muscle memory, right? They talk
Yeah.
about it with tennis, they talk about it with soccer, they talk about it with anything. You have been doing something so many times, your brain just thinks like that, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you can't go and do 10,000 hours in something else. 10,000 hours, have you ever actually broken it down?
Bloody long time.
It's a really long time.
Didn't it? It works out to like 3 years or something. 3 or
Solid.
4 years.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah, so you really need to start doing this as a child. So it's very important that you start doing whatever it is you want to do in life. Start doing it
But
as
that's
a
the
child.
whole part of the book. He's talking about Steve
Yep.
Jobs, Bill Gates. They all did computer nerdy stuff
Absolutely.
in the libraries, little tiny children.
Yes, little tiny children.
But
weren't
they
that
were.
tiny. But they were, yeah.
They were like 10 and they'd
They
go
were
to the
young.
library and do it.
Yeah, and it's the same with sports stars. You look at sports stars these
Exactly.
days, to be at the top of their game, they have to be...
I
give
can't
up their
start
childhood.
tennis now and then be at Wimbledon next year.
No, that's
I would need to have started when I was 7
Yeah,
or younger.
yeah.
So it makes sense. But that's also part of the imposter syndrome too, was, oh, well, I've done the 10,000 hours. So,
You've earned your stripes.
yeah, exactly. And also the other thing is that interior design is not really something you can teach because it's very much dependent on the person's ability to put colours and patterns.
Well, that was going to be my last
together.
question to you, was what,
Yeah.
considering you've had no training, you've obviously had enormous success. You've not only built a business, you are building solutions to problems within that business, so you're able to think laterally. You've written books about that. You've taught it, right? So why do you think that is? Explain to me what you think interior design is. I mean, there's obviously that everyone has natural talents back and forth, but what do you think it is that has made you so successful considering you've had no traditional training?
I think it's intuition.
Yep.
So I really enjoy the beginning stages of a project when I'm first meeting a person and talking to them about what their dream for the house is.
Yep.
And if I don't get the right vibe from that person, I hate that word, but we're not vibing, then I know that project is going to be a failure. So I need to know that I'm working with somebody that trusts me, but then is also going to push me on things as well.
Yep.
Because I might get into, a trap and just keep going down that path, and then they'll go, oh no, I really want to do this. And that's when the collaboration comes together and the house actually ends up being a beautiful product of each person that's involved in the team,
Yep.
their work.
I would have thought the hardest part of that first bit is how do you, because most people are not very good at articulating their vision.
No.
How do you get that out of them? How do you extract
It's
that?
hard. It is
Yeah.
really hard. So I always get them to do an exercise before I meet with them, and they need to go and find at least 15 photos of things that they like.
Yep.
That if we're talking about a whole house, then I'd need them to do more than that, and we need exterior and interior.
And most people who are
photos.
building a house tend to do that.
They've already got a Pinterest board because they've got their dream house
Yeah.
Pinterest board from 4 years ago,
Yep.
and so they tend to have a pretty decent idea of where they want to go, and that's why they've engaged a designer anyway, because they know they can't execute it themselves, but they know what they want the end result to look
Yep.
like. Whereas the people that come to you and say, I don't know what I want, I just want a beautiful house, they're hard work because you've got to really dig in. But then that's when I use my intuition and think, okay, well, how hard can I push that person to do something that is completely out of the box, or do we need to go more cookie cutter
Yeah.
with that? And you gauge that in the early meetings with somebody, and you work out they're somebody that you can take a risk with, they're someone that wants to play it safe, and then you just adjust the project accordingly.
You say no to a lot of people?
Yeah.
And how do you do it? Do you say, I'm just too busy, I can't fit you in? Or do you just say, look, I just don't think I don't think I'm the right designer for you?
Yeah, sometimes they have a very specific look and feel, and I just think, I'm not confident in doing that style, or I don't enjoy that style so much. Or they can be somebody that I think we're just not going to gel.
Yep.
And I get so involved in their life for that period of time.
Yeah, you would do.
And you learn like the weirdest stuff about people too, because you're in their most intimate spaces. Like some people never show their bedroom to their friends when they entertain, and I'll be standing in their bedroom talking to them about all sorts of things. I had one client tell me she needed a padded bed head because the last bed head she had when she and her husband were having sex dented the wall so badly and would wake the kids up.
Yeah,
and I was like, I've just met you.
Well, that's probably good. If she knew you, she'd probably feel uncomfortable telling you that, right? So that's why she wanted to get it out really early before she got this sort of friendship going.
But I get told the weirdest things from clients.
Yeah, I
and
suppose.
I'm like, nothing can faze me anymore. People are like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, honestly, nothing can faze me. I've seen it all.
Do you have one favourite one that you've done?
They change all the time because I get new projects and then I think, oh, this one's going to be the best one that I've done
You like the shiny new one.
Yeah, and then it all changes again. So I've got some, like, I actually work with a lot of clients that will then sell that house and move to the next house.
Yep, okay, that makes sense.
I've got a few clients at the moment that I'm doing that with that I loved their project before. They've sold it, we've worked on a new project, and so now
And so when people do that with you, because I don't imagine a lot, but when they do that with you, do they tend to do something similar or do they often tend to go completely different?
No, I mean, the architecture of the house dictates a lot of what you do anyway.
True.
So it depends where they buy, but I mean, that's good because I already know what they're comfortable doing beforehand. So then we have a conversation of, okay, are we taking it in the same direction or do you want to do something completely different? They may have saved a bit more money. They've now got a fair amount more budget to work with. So
Nice
therefore,
finishes.
We can do cooler stuff.
Do you feel that those projects where you repeat, they're going to get better and stronger, I guess?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
the relationship does and
Exactly.
the understanding does.
Exactly. And also then if we've worked with the same builder before, the builder comes back, I know how that builder and their trades work, and so the whole thing just
And is it
works
only
better.
home? You don't do any commercial stuff?
No, I do commercial.
You
I do
commercial?
small boutique commercial as well. So small hospitality restaurants, small offices, those sorts of things.
Cool.
Yeah,
How exciting.
not just resi.
No, all right.
Yeah.
Well, the new business is launching,
It's launched.
It's
It's
launched?
live. It is live.
and you're actually allowing people to have access. Do you have any people on there now?
We do have some designers using the platform already. And now
That's good
it's
because you can have their feedback as well, right?
Well, yeah, but it's the catch-22 of how much do you listen to their feedback versus what's going to work for a larger audience.
Can you offer free membership for 3 months to try and really ramp it up and get that feedback, or based on the fact that they give you feedback or whatever?
Yeah, we did that last year and got their feedback and then built that. But there's so many more things that I know that I can do with the platform that
will
I
never
want to
change,
build.
I feel.
No.
I feel that will always be the case. There will always be so many more.
I know. Well, just the way that technology is moving, augmented reality and putting goggles on and seeing where furniture can look in your house, because clients engage designers because they can't visualise what the end result looks like.
Yes.
And me trying to explain that to them can be quite complicated.
Yes.
And so being able to put goggles on and they look around their room and go, oh, okay, yeah, the dining table does look good there and I think I need a rug there.
So you're doing that now?
Make my life so much easier. We will be rolling that sort of thing out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And do you think
The
it ever
tech
gets to a
exists.
stage where you can feel textures? I suppose at some stage that technology will come. It must.
Possibly.
That'll be amazing.
That's the exciting part of it, right? There's no limit to what we can do in the tech world.
Not at the speed it's changing. No.
Exactly. No. It's just moving so rapidly that we need to just jump on it and keep going.
Well, I look forward to seeing the next version of Emma Blomfield.
And my next book.
And your next book, absolutely, yes. I want to be there for the signing.
How to battle imposter syndrome.
Whilst building a tech business.
Yeah.
Look, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been awesome to hear all this. I'm very excited for you, and I have a feeling that you will just keep pushing into new frontiers, even after the tech business.
Maybe. We won't get that far ahead yet.
Well, maybe we'll get you back on after you've done something crazy next time.
Yes.
Sounds good. Thanks, Emma.
Thank you.